It's going to be another interesting year for Lori Vallow Daybell. Of course, we've saw other interesting years of her last trial being found guilty of murder of her two children. This time it is looking at Charles Vallow, her fourth husband, if she had anything to do with that, which, yeah. And attempting to murder her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. You know, like you do. Joining me to discuss, Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author. And I have your book because you sent it to me. So I have everybody's book right here. So The Mind of Mass Killers. We always hear Shavaun as an author. I know you've mentioned it on the air, many a times, but now I have it. So go check it out. Go download it.
Bedtime reading for you. It's
exactly.
just to calm down and relax. Yeah,
Exactly.
Happy thoughts.
As we go into the 2025 with Lori Vallow and her now going to be her own representative, her own attorney. I know we've talked about that a little bit, but your thoughts on all of this. How did we get here where Lori is going to be her own attorney from barely being, feel like competent to stand trial, all the madness and crazy. It feels like if there's a crazy road to go down here, we're still going down it. And it just doesn't seem to ever be an end. Anything Lori can control, she's going down the wrong path.
Yeah, and anytime Lori can have this sense of I'm so special, look at me, that's going to be her choice. And it just seems like, as far as having an effective trial and something that, flows the way trials are supposed to, it's a really bad idea because Lori is essentially psychotic.
Would Lori be considered a mass killer? We have the kids, we have her ex-wife, we have Tammy Daybell. I'm trying to think if there's others that she suspect. Obviously, there's the one where Brandon Boudreaux, which wasn't successful. But what's the classification there?
This is a really hard one to classify, and I think that's what makes it so unusual and why we talk about it so much, because it's so weird. And usually when we think of a mass killer, it's the person who goes out and tries to kill as many people as they can. Generally, they're strangers, and it's a different motivation. It's a look at me, but in a different way. And it happens one time, one place, and as many people as they can.
Sure.
Strangers. Or in the case of school shootings, they know the people, but they may not be targeting anyone specifically most of the time. She clearly had an agenda, whether she thinks it came from heaven or Jesus or what, the bizarre beliefs and the psychosis. So it really, I don't even know. I mean, it doesn't quite fit serial killer. Serial killer might be closer than mass killer, but it's, I think we need a new category for this: religiously motivated, delusional, think she's on a mission. It's weird.
What's also interesting about this that's different than the other cases that we talk about is we don't know for sure, but my conjecture is that I don't believe she was ever directly involved with the actual act of murder. She's more like the mob boss that's telling her minions, her because we kind of suspect that maybe Alex Cox had something to do with some of these murders. We don't know. He's dead. She was ordering the hits on these things. She wasn't actually taking them out. Is that one of the factors that helps insulate Lori Vallow into believing that she's not a killer, that she didn't kill these kids, that because somehow her telling her people that this is what should happen, and then it happens, that she's able to go, well, I didn't kill them. That's
exactly. And this delusional sense that this was this holy mission, to take out zombies and send them off to a place where they're actually living and very happy now and are, basically validating her behavior. She was able to put distance from the violence that actually took place, the horror that took place. And it's the intricacies of this lady's mind. It's hard to put ourselves in her head because there's so much crazy that's going on up there.
It almost kind of reminds me of just AI a little bit, where it's like we don't know what's going to happen to it. Like if you play with it ever and you're typing something in, we're working on another project here that's a satirical comedy show, and sometimes I'll just say to it, um, give me 10 ideas of ways that this character could go, and the things it comes up with are just insane. But but they're invented at that moment in time. I guess that's my point. These didn't exist elsewhere. It feels like Lori Vallow, when she's generating these ideas, it doesn't necessarily even have to somehow conform to the past story or make any sense in congruence with the past. It's just, here's what she's going to do now. Just like how
Yeah.
recently she told her son that she believes that her daughter killed her son and then killed herself in regret. She's claiming that Tylee did it now, and she killed JJ, and then she walked in and they were both dead. I mean, just the way that she's able to contort these things around, but still somehow thinking, okay, they're dead, and you walked out of the room and then nothing else happened. There's no funeral. There's no let's call the police.
Hmm.
There's no nothing. It's just
Hmm.
they end up buried in the backyard. And then she justifies it to her son by going, she always wanted to be cremated. It's like,
Oh.
you couldn't make this up.
No, no, you really couldn't. And I think when you look at what's different about Lori from your average murderer, it's the non-rational nature of it. It's the bizarre, as you say, the story changes and shifts and
Mhm.
morphs, and all of it is wacky and doesn't add up and doesn't make any sense. And I think that's the tip that, okay, this lady, we can say is legitimately crazy.
Is it her religiosity that enables that, where the religious fervor that she has is so deeply ingrained in her, and with all of that, that requires suspension of reality, that requires
Yeah.
suspension of reason, that requires someone to have to say, okay, I mean, that's what faith is. I mean, in terms of religious faith, it's just believing something and assuming it's true, but I'm never gonna there's no way I can uh verify these facts in any way, shape, or form. If this is how her manual to life is, and then you mirror that with her own life and how it's playing along, does that enable that type of thinking? Because if over here, the most important thing to me, it goes from A to Q and all over the place and nothing really truly necessarily adds up. Well, then if my life over here can be just as chaotic, because that's normal, that is normal to
Mhm.
her, that chaos
Mhm.
can exist. And this faith or this idea of whatever she says is true based on religion, that almost kind of explains the logic in a certain way.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I think you could probably put people with um what would we say, vigorous religious faith on a continuum,
Hmm.
from people who maybe believe in the power of prayer to influence things, but they still go to the doctor or they take their kid to the doctor when they're sick.
Hmm.
And then you move along the continuum with people who, well, we're not going to even
Yeah.
take medication or get vaccines or do any of these things because we believe God will heal us.
Hmm.
And then it can get crazier and more malignant. And I think that's when you find somebody who has a tendency towards psychotic thinking
Hmm.
and their way of interpreting religion. The psychosis manifests in that
Hmm.
they get crazy, but to get violent is really rare,
Hmm.
and this is almost like, when you saw the delusional people involved in Jonestown and everybody drinking the poison. I mean, we do see these cases where the religiosity is dangerous and psychotic.
How is it that we can have so many people practicing religion, some more extreme than others, and you can have masses of them that never take this to another level of insanity, of well, let's suspend our belief in reality from here to there. But every once in a while you get the one, or you get the one that does go that far, and it isn't I'm guessing it's not that hard to start a cult from everything.
Yeah,
Like,
apparently.
apparently it wouldn't
Yeah.
be difficult to get those sort of people in there. um what's the tipping point here? Is it the religion itself, or is it something in the person's mind that then allows it to go that much further? Or can it be the slow drip of a more extreme one, where it just slowly kind of, you go from, oh, we're, going to church and praying. And then, at the end of the day, we're out there, picketing, a funeral of a military person. Uh,
Right,
you know,
right. Yeah, it's a slope, I think, that people can fall into gradually. And if they're in a more extremist church
Mhm.
or faith or group, I think there can be this brainwashing process that goes on where people who maybe didn't start off with delusional thinking over time, if that's what they're surrounded with, they become more and more delusional. And of course, the hardcore skeptic atheist would say anybody who believes in the magic god in the sky is crazy,
Mhm.
but I think cultural factors have a lot to do with to what extent it can influence people's reality and behavior.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating case and such a bizarre case that I'm sure it will continue to be just that. If this does take place, this is going to be probably one of the most interesting trials of the year.
I'll
Um,
be watching.
yeah,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.